There's this strange paradox in leadership, right? You see these incredibly smart, capable leaders, but then, when the pressure really ramps up, something flips. They get reactive, they lose that clarity. It's a problem we've all seen. And most leadership books, they try to fix it with more tactics, more strategies. But what if the problem isn't the strategy? What if it's something deeper, something biological?
So this book, Conscious Under Pressure, just nails this problem right from the start. I mean, take a look at this quote from its preface. It gets right to the heart of that frustrating feeling, doesn't it? That gap between the leader we want to be and the person we actually become when the heat is on.
The book actually gives this a name. It calls it the state gap. And here's what's so powerful about this idea. It suggests that when leaders fail, it's usually not because they lack skill or knowledge. No, it's a failure of access. They literally lose the connection to the part of themselves that holds all that skill and judgment. So right away, you can see how this book carves out its own unique path. It's not about giving you a bigger toolbox full of leadership hacks. Nope, the whole argument is about something else entirely. It's about making sure you can actually get to the tools you already have, especially when it matters most. Yeah, it sidesteps all the usual advice on productivity or running better meetings. Instead, it goes deeper. It focuses on what it calls the leader's internal operating system. Think of it like the OS on your computer. If that's glitchy, none of the apps are going to run right. And that system is built on 3 pillars: state, signal, and access.
Okay, so let's break that down. First up is state, and this is a really crucial distinction. We're not talking about your mood, like being happy or sad. The book is way more specific. It's talking about a biological condition. Is your nervous system calm and open, or is it braced for impact, kind of narrowed down? Because that state, it argues, is the filter for everything.
All right, next is signal. And this flows directly from your state. It's pretty logical, right? Think of it like a radio broadcast. If your internal state is all static and chaos, then the signal you send out, your words, your decisions, your presence, it all gets distorted. And that distortion, that's what creates friction and confusion for the whole team. And that brings us to the third piece, access. This is really the whole point, the end game. It's your ability to reach that best version of yourself, your full intelligence, your good judgment, right when you need it most. See, the whole reason to work on your state and your signal is to protect this, to maintain that access no matter what.
So all these ideas, they build up to the book's core premise. And this, for me, is where it gets really interesting. It basically says that when leaders break down under pressure, it's not a psychological problem, it's a physiological one. It all comes down to biology.
The key concept here is something called state narrowing. When your nervous system senses a threat, a missed deadline, a tense meeting, whatever, it contracts. It goes into survival mode. And when that happens, your cognitive bandwidth literally shrinks. You stop seeing nuance, and empathy just goes offline. It's an ancient survival response that is just terrible for modern leadership. And the book has this brilliant term for one of the side effects: decision residue. You know that feeling, right? When you leave a meeting and just keep replaying it in your head. You know something was off, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Well, that's it. That's the cognitive static, the emotional hangover from making a decision from that narrowed, contracted state. Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. The book offers a solution, a structured way to deal with this biological reality. It's called the Thrive architecture. And let's be clear, it's not about making pressure disappear, because that's impossible. Instead, it's a practical 6-step framework for actively managing your internal state so you can stay clear and stable, even when things get chaotic. This focus on biology is really what makes this book feel so different from almost everything else out there. I love the metaphor it uses. Most leadership books are trying to give you new software, new tactics, new behaviors. But Conscious Under Pressure says, hang on, what about the hardware? It's arguing we're ignoring the very machine it all runs on, our nervous system.
And that's the key distinction. Take a fantastic book like Brené Brown's Dare to Lead. That book does an amazing job exploring culture and vulnerability. But this book, it's operating on a more foundational level. It's asking the question that comes before that. It's asking, what's happening in your biology that physically stops you from being vulnerable in the first place? It makes the case that culture and motivation are actually downstream from the leader's internal state. And that right there is the big paradigm shift. The challenge isn't learning one more skill. It's about preventing your own biology from blocking the skills you already possess. So the goal isn't to control everything out there. It's to maintain coherence and access in here. So, with all that in mind, who is this book really for? Well, if you're looking for a quick checklist of leadership tips, this probably isn't it. The audience is much more specific. This book really seems to speak to leaders who are already good at what they do, but they feel the strain of it. We're talking founders in that high-growth chaos, executives facing those impossible decisions. Really, any leader who feels that immense weight of responsibility and asks themselves, why does this have to be so draining?
And that's probably why it feels so different to read. It's not a step-by-step manual. It's more like a foundational text, an owner's guide for your own leadership operating system. It helps you understand the architecture so you can keep the whole system from crashing when you're under a heavy load.
Ultimately, after all the science and all the frameworks, the entire book really boils down to one central reflective question.
And that question is this: the next time pressure hits, do you lose access to yourself or do you stay? That just reframes everything, doesn't it? The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is simply to stay connected, to reduce the amount of time you spend cut off from your own best judgment.
So I'll leave you with the question that this whole book is really asking. It's a simple one, but it holds the key to everything we've just discussed. Who are you really when you're under pressure? For any leader who feels the weight of that question, this book offers a unique and, I think, a very valuable perspective worth exploring.